glad you are there again today for us to have our literary moment together. The book at hand today is The Mythical Manawobe, written by the prolific writer SAMMY OKE AKOMBI. I'm so glad to have him on set today. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. It's really my pleasure to be on this program today. And I've always thought that the book with Susie is doing a great job, because we've always thought that, you know, Cameroonians don't read. And in my own opinion, Cameroonians don't read because they don't have the material to read. But the book with Susie is showing that, you know, there's so much material out there for other Cameroonians to read.
Thank you very much. Today we are talking about the Mythical Manawobe. Mythical Manawobe. It is your recent baby.
Yes.
Manawobe is a place in the town of Victoria, now called Limbe, that has a mythical story that so many people don't know about. And now you have decided, you know, to tell the story of Manawobe, so as to create awareness. Why is Manawobe, which is supposed to be a reality, now mythical?
Well, in fact, the origin of this is that the Bilingual Grammar School Ex-Students Association thought that we should have a 60th anniversary.
Okay.
And in this 60th anniversary, there should be some kind of documentation about the institution. And this is why, you know, I took upon myself as one of the students, ex-students actually, of the Bilingual Grammar School in Moliko. I went back to Moliko, not to Manawobe.
Okay.
That we should have some kind of documentation. And I thought we should come up with a story about this Manawobe. And I looked at it as mythical. Mythical in the sense that very few people know of Manawobe as the cradle of bilingualism in this country. When we had the Federation in 1961, and then it came up that President Ahidjo, who had thought that he needs to have a citizenry that understood what bilingualism was all about. In 1962, he created the Federal Government Bilingual Grammar School.
Okay.
And when this was done, they were now looking for infrastructure for the institution. And they said, but there is this military camp, which is, you know, left there in Manawobe. Why don't we start the school there? And this is how the school was taken to Manawobe.
But you tell us in the book that it was supposed to be in Boya.
Yes, but at least the decree to create it was for it to be in Boya.
Okay.
But because there was no infrastructure then.
They had to take it to Manawobe.
So then the only infrastructure around that area, around where it was supposed to be created, was in Manawobe, and that's why they carried the school to Manawobe.
That's a beautiful story that is inscribed or that is written in this mythical Manawobe, which I will enjoin you to get a copy and read. Time for us to take our forward, and we are glad to have a Professor Chief Teddy Ako, who has something very particular to say about this book. Can we watch? Okay, let's watch.
Mythical Manawobe. The title of the book is a little bit intriguing. Something which is mythical in a sense, almost sound like something which is untrue, something which is a construct, something which is a fable, something which is a story. But we should note that the story of nations are generally presented as narratives. A nation is a narrative. And the thing about this book is It talks about the Federal Bilingual Grammar School created in 1963 to bring together English-speaking and French-speaking Cameroonians into a secondary school campus where they lived together, studied together, ended up writing the main exams in the Francophone and the Anglophone subsystems of education. And so the main character in the book, Karl Cassia, is from the western region, from the village of Fongo-Tongo, who was part of the first batch of students. So he left his western region, came to West Cameroon for the first time to attend school in Manawa Bay in Victoria. So what we should note is that in this text, Karl Cassia, the main character, falls in love with Angeline Ayogetam of Seka College from Manu Division. They eventually decided not to continue with their education after the BAPC and the GCE O level in order to get married, to start a new family. So symbolically, the new family to be founded by Karl Cassia and Angeline Ayogetam is actually the birth of the new Republic of Cameroon as we know it today. So today, of course, is a well-known slogan, which is, what do they call it? Learning to live together. Today, it may be a household word, but what we need to remember is that in the early 1960s, with the putting in place of the Federal Bilingual Grammar School, that really was, in practical terms, the birth of living together in Cameroon. So it is the story of the creation of a school, but by extension, it is the story of the birth of a new nation, symbolized by this new secondary school. So it is a must. I would advise anyone not just to read it, but get your friends to read it, get your children to read it. All those who are involved in education one way or the other should read it. And I think this book is particularly relevant today because of the actions and movements and attitudes which spring up here and there. I think the book delves very extensively into that, the rationale for this marriage between East Cameroon and West Cameroon.
You're welcome back, and of course we are having a prolific writer in our midst, SAMMY AKOMBI, with his latest baby titled MYTHICAL Man Awobe. You've just told us about how the school, the Federal Bilingual Grammar School, was created. Now, I just want to ask you, why did you choose to use romance to express national integration, bilingualism, which are some of the themes highlighted in this book?
Yeah, well, normally I decided to use romance because, at the end of the book, we have a poem when they were doing a toast, and this toast had to do with this marriage of the two, Angeline and Karl Cassia.
The two main protagonists.
Yes.
Okay.
Karl Cassia came from a village, Fongo-Tongo, and for the first time he crossed over to West Cameroon. And he had so many surprises, so many things that interested him, when he went down to Victoria in the final analysis. Mm-hmm. And, one of those things that can attract a young person.
It's a woman.
It's a woman. It's a woman.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. And so he had an encounter with Angeline,
Ayuketang?
Angelina Ayuketang, who was an Anglophone, well, in the book is an Anglophone, who was attending the Seka Baptist College, which incidentally at the time had been created had become functional in 1962.
Okay.
So Angelina Ayuketang was even a class ahead of Carl Cassia.
Okay.
Yes. And, when these two met, their perspectives and how to, there was this curiosity more on the part of Angeline because she had never met a Francophone in her life. And to have met a Francophone who was expressing himself so well in English, I mean, he actually fell in love with him. And this is how the relationship started. Unfortunately, it ended up in marriage. So it was now a marriage between two cultures. Well, Angeline is a Bayangi girl. Carl Cassia is from Fongo-Tongo,
the West region.
In the Menua division.
Okay.
Yes, in the Menua division.
We might call him a Bamaleke.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is it. And this marriage was not only between these two tribes, but it was also a marriage between Cameroon, East Cameroon, and West Cameroon.
Okay.
You see, so it is also to indicate that when it happens like this, it is usually a divine call. So looking at it from a divine aspect, we can only say that it is, to exist for good. Yes. We get married for better or for worse.
Or for worse, yes.
If East and West Cameroon came together, it was for better or for worse. So this is the kind of situation. And yes, so in fact, I want to call this romance a metaphor of our reunification between East Cameroon and West Cameroon. Oh. And this was orchestrated by the creation. Well, this was this particular marriage between, well, the first federation couple, because as in the story, it's said to be the first federation couple. Okay. And this was orchestrated by the fact that the federal government bilingual grammar school had been created in Manawobe.
We are going to continue later on because we have to take our Vox Pop right now. And this is the question: how do you promote national integration? You as a person, how do you promote national integration?
Personally, I promote national integration by accommodating different languages, food, and cultures from diverse backgrounds. For example, in the morning, I tell my Yaoundé neighbor, the Kiwi. I also tell my Bolo neighbor, Ambolo. Adding to that, I do share their meals. I eat okok from the center region and also sanga from the South region, that is from the Bolo people. Sharing their meals, sharing their languages makes you to have a sense of belonging and also make them to believe that you're part of them. That is my own way of promoting national integration.
For me, I strive to break barriers between Cameroonians from different regions, languages, and cultures. I do this by actively engaging with people from different backgrounds, promoting mutual respect, and celebrating our diversity. I use every opportunity I have, like my job, whether through my works, social media, or community interactions, to highlight what unite us as a nation rather than what divides us.
Whenever I have an opportunity, I always want to teach about the potency of us living together, the potency of our unity. So that is how I promote integration. And I think it's something that is very important, especially for our country after going through everything we've gone through. If we cannot come together and work as one, then we will miss out on enjoying the best potentials of our diversity. Thank you.
You're welcome back. And of course, you are watching the book with me, Susan Bell. What are some aspects of national integration, multiculturalism, bilingualism, and living together expressed in the book that are still relevant in our society today?
Well, the first thing is that a young man of 14 years old, born and bred in Fongo, Tongo, had an opportunity to come and study in the Anglophone part of the country for the first time. That was in 1963. And the parents let him come. And you know what? The Francophones were to meet in Douala. And then they were to be airlifted from Douala to Tico. Because at the time, there was no Tico-Douala road.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So this is what was going to happen. And this man felt that, at the time there was this Makiza problem.
Okay.
And so he said, no, my son will not go through
the road.
Going through Konsamba to the other place.
Okay.
Now, so he decided that his son should rather leave Fongo Tongo to Fontem in those days. Fontem used to be a subdivision, which is now the Lebialem division.
Okay.
Yes. And then moved down to Mamfe, the Bakebe villages and so on, moving towards, and eventually found himself in Boya. So he was already integrating within, the federation, in another part of the federation. So this was it. And then finally, when he found himself in Manawobe, well, the system was that, in the dormitories, this is a Francophone's bed, and the next bed is an Anglophone's bed, So because there were just 70 students, 35 of them English-speaking, 35 of them French-speaking.
Okay.
And this, they were now interacting within this environment.
Okay.
And, at that time, the vision was to have the school a boarding school. And government took responsibility of the students. So it kept them there. And now, they were now enjoying, what the Federation has brought to them.
Okay.
Yeah. So this was part of the national integration. And, the
French speaking will have to communicate in French and English, and they are learning
learning both languages at the same time.
That's a very beautiful story.
And you know what?
No?
Most of the products have been very useful Cameroonians
today.
Yes. The current prime minister of this country is a product of that institution.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's a product of that institution.
Okay.
And, there are many others that, even we were talking about Professor Ako Teddy, that was of the second batch of that institution.
Okay.
Met Akeremuna.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, even when you talk of people like Ayapol. Ayapol is a product
of that institution.
That. And you see how nationalistic these people have been.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much. It's time for us to take on the shelf. We shall be right back.
A preface is basically an introductory section to a book. It is written by the author of that book and is majorly found in non-fictions and fictions. It is an important section of a book because it helps to provide information, salient information that could entice a reader to want to read more, given that it gives information on the background and context and some highlights that would make the reader will bring the reader closer to the author and equally make the reader want to read more about the text. It is very essential, I could say imperative, for a book to be prefaced. It is important because it is the medium in which the author can give his or her intentions behind the writing of the text or the book. That is, the author gets to explain, give the reason for the writing, explain why the book was written, the motivation, the drive, and all that. That's all of which pushed the writer to write about whatever the person has written about in that book. It's equally a medium in which the author can acknowledge all those who helped him or her in the process of writing, whether it be in the creation process or the completion process. It is equally a medium for the author to highlight salient facts about the text, give some background information. For example, if an author is writing about, say, the cultural pattern of a people, it's in the preface that the author will kind of give us information about who these people are, such that when we start reading the text, we are kind of situated, we know who we're reading about, and that kind of information. And by doing that, the author sets a tone, prepares the reader on how to approach the book, the reading of the book, and at the same time gives a significance, a weight of the work. So it is very important to preface a book.
Okay, we have a few minutes to go, and we are still in the company of SAMMY, OKE, AKOMBI, and we are looking at Mythical Manawobe, and in French, Mythique. Le Mythique Manawobe, I should say it is a bilingual version, English and French. Now, briefly tell us in one of the chapters, you talked about students of the Federal Grammar School going for an excursion in Bimbia. What was the essence for you highlighting this? Briefly, please.
The point is simply that Bimbia itself had been neglected.
Okay.
Neglected to the extent that when the history teacher, asked a question for the students to name different slave trade areas or slave ports, they named all the slave ports, but didn't say anything about Bimbia. And so it now reminded them that Bimbia is right here, walking distance from Manawobe.
Okay.
Yes, and so took them out for an excursion. And the whole idea is simply that we should also bring this Bimbia to focus. 10% of the slaves that left the coast of West Africa left through the port of Bimbia.
Okay.
This should be known and this should be highlighted.
Okay.
And in fact, I would think that a touristic, instead of having the BIR, the Brigade Intervention Rapide in Manawobe, it should have been a touristic center, a touristic area.
But I think that it is.
But the military being there, they don't allow anyone to go into Manawobe.
Okay, the story is so interesting, and I will enjoy, or I will call on those watching us today to get a copy and read. Tell us how they can do that.
Well,
is there any address they can get to you?
Well, they could get to the publisher, who is Mr. Nya, and the Nya publishers with the telephone number 677-304-697. Or they could get to me personally. My phone number is 677722363.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for coming, SAMMY, OKE, AKOMBI. And I should say that be you French-speaking or English-speaking, you would take delight in reading because it's both in French as well as in English. Thank you again for coming.
You're welcome. And it was my pleasure, being part of the book with Susie.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching, and see you some other time. Bye-bye.